Hollywood has produced some nice movies, great for sight, but do you know that some even more interesting stories have taken place in the Hollywood industry? In today's video, we will be talking about the old Hollywood scandals that history has forgotten. Number 1. Jean Harlow's husband took his life under very suspicious circumstances. Producer Paul Byrne passed away in 1932, 2 months after he and Jean Harlow were married, apparently by suicide. He was discovered dead in their house, naked, holding a gun and a note. The police interpreted this as a suicide note, but they could not interpret what it meant, given Harlow's refusal to talk about it other than to say she was at her mother's house the night of the suicide. The morning the body was discovered, Louis B. Mayer, the studio chief, and Irving Thalberg, the head of the production, arrived at Harlow's house and swiftly resolved the problem, concluding it as suicide. Research conducted years after his death reveals that Byrne most certainly did not commit suicide and was killed. There are speculations that Dorothy Millette, Byrne's supposed ex-lover, had murdered him. Years before meeting Harlow, Byrne had a love relationship with struggling performer Dorothy Millette when they lived in New York. Millette is known to have emotional and mental health issues. Millette went into a coma, and doctors said she would probably never recover. 10 years later, Millette woke up and called Byrne, who was with Harlow. He scheduled a time to meet with her at his home and sent Harlow out for the evening. Other sources claim he started a fight to get her to go. It is said that Byrne passed on the same evening he planned on meeting with Millette. Millie's body was found 9 days after the Sacramento River, which brought the speculation that Millette had most definitely killed Byrne and committed suicide after. Number 2. Roman Polanski's Lolita complex and infamous death of second wife. The fact that actress Sharon Tate, the second wife of filmmaker Roman Polanski, was cruelly killed by the Manson family in 1969. The subject of yet another Margot Robbie-Brad Pitt movie, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood from 2019, seems bizarre enough. Yet, Polanski became involved in a highly shady 1977 story involving the legal rape of a 13-year-old girl who he drugged. Polanski argued the girl was a voluntary participant despite the fact that he acknowledged having intercourse with her. In February 1978, Polanski was going to be convicted and fled to Europe, since no one with a sense was believing that narrative. Number 3. Twilight Zone, the movie helicopter crash. Twilight Zone, the movie, a 1983 collection of horror stories based on the renowned television series, took a fatal turn during director John Landis' section. Landis directed a Vietnam War scene in July 1982, in which actor Vic Morrow's character saves 2 Vietnamese kids by carrying them over a river. The on-set pyrotechnics, however, collided with a low-flying helicopter that was also included in the scene. The chopper lost control and crashed into the river, killing Morrow and the 2 children. I went into shock for 4 or 5 hours. Morrow's daughter, actress Jennifer Jason Leigh, commented, "I didn't know what to feel." Following over 10 years of legal proceedings, the director and crew were accused of manslaughter. Although the crew was ultimately found not guilty, the incident impacted Hollywood history. This event has called for tougher movie safety standards, and each one must have a risk expert inspect the sets before shooting. Number 4. The first Hollywood murder. The tragic record of becoming the first Hollywood person assassinated belongs to pioneering filmmaker Francis Boggs. This occurred in 1911, a long time before Los Angeles became the center of the film industry. Boggs began his career as a stage performer and eventually went to Chicago, where he was hired by the Selig Polyscope Company, one of the country's earliest motion picture studios. After impressing him with his skills, head honcho William Selig permitted Boggs to work behind the camera. In 1909, he moved to Los Angeles and filmed a short film called In the Sultan's Power, one of the city's earliest motion pictures. Soon after, the Selig Company launched a location in Edendale, Los Angeles, with Boggs as the manager. On October 27, 1911, a janitor named Frank Minimatsu barged through the door brandishing a handgun and started shooting. Boggs spoke with William Selig and a few others at the time at his Edendale office. Boggs was instantly slain as the first gunshot entered his heart. Before the other men restrained him, Minimatsu fired 4 more shots, one of which struck Selig in the right arm. Regarding the janitor's motivation, some publications suggested that alcohol had driven him insane. In contrast, others said he had a vendetta against Francis Boggs and entered that room intending to murder him. Number 5. Joan Crawford starred in at least one adult film. Joan Crawford had at least one pornographic film appearance before she became a Hollywood star. According to the legend, MGM spent years and hundreds of thousands of dollars locating and destroying the film. Crawford was a major star for MGM, but when the company learned that she had appeared in the pornographic short Velvet Lips as a teenager and maybe while underage, things became heated. Eddie Mannix, a renowned fixer for MGM, allegedly worked with the mob to find extortionists demanding $100,000 for the movie. The mob would either take them out and steal the negatives if they didn't accept $25,000 for all the negatives. Another story version claims that Mannix paid $100,000 for the negatives. Crawford made an unprecedented decision when she paid MGM $50,000 to leave the company in 1943. Many historians argue that she did so as compensation for the studio's acquisition and destruction of the Velvet Lips negatives. Number 6. Montgomery Clift, the doomed heartthrob. Montgomery Clift was D.A. Dreamboat back then. He had it all: good looks, skill, charisma, and influential friends. However, one of those friends would be Clift's downfall. Elizabeth Taylor once coaxed her friend Clift into attending her dinner party. Clift, who embodies the introverted lifestyle, objected since he was weary and wanted to stay home. But Taylor wouldn't listen. Taylor ultimately got her way, and Clift went to her party. After a while, he started to make his way back home, and that's when everything started to go wrong. Due to his extreme exhaustion, Clift passed out while driving and forcefully collided with a tree. Taylor, who was terrified, hurried to help her companion. She had to reach down his throat and pull out pieces of his teeth to prevent him from choking. Even though Clift survived the collision, his terrible wounds caused him to become dependent on painkillers, and soon he got addicted. As a result of his addiction, Hollywood banned its former golden boy because of his unstable behavior. After Taylor's tragic party, Clift's addiction worsened over the following years, and he passed away at just 45. Film academics now refer to Clift's early demise and the time after the vehicle accident as Hollywood's slowest suicide. Number 7. Gloria Grahame, the man-eater who went way too far. Gloria Grahame, who starred in timeless films like It's a Wonderful Life and In a Lonely Place, was once old Hollywood's go-to blonde. But her career took a severe plunge when she sat down for this one and wed her ex-husband's child. Yes, this girl put a whole new meaning to the term cradle robber. But hold on, let's go back and talk about how Grahame got into this predicament. Grahame was an undercover man-eater. The next day after separating from her first husband, actor Stanley Clements, she wed renowned filmmaker Nicholas Ray. She and Ray were a troubled couple who frequently broke up and got back together. All bets were off, though, when Ray discovered his wife sleeping with their 13-year-old son Anthony. But lo and behold, 8 years after Gloria and Anthony's risky affair, with Grahame having already experienced one failed marriage, guess who should cross paths? The cougar and her cub eventually married and appeared happy, but the media frenzy that followed the news of their meet ugly was too much to handle. Grahame agreed to get electroshock therapy because she was so unhappy. Number 8. Greta Garbo and Marlene Dietrich probably had an affair. Marlene Dietrich and Greta Garbo have a lot in common. The performers, Dietrich from Germany and Garbo from Sweden, arrived in Hollywood from Europe simultaneously and were just 4 years apart in age. However, Garbo and Dietrich consistently denied having crossed paths during their careers. The Joyless Street, a silent German movie from 1925, featured 19-year-old Garbo opposite Marlene Dietrich, who was 23 then. Since there are no complete prints of the movie, it wasn't easy to know what was real because Dietrich insisted on denying that she had ever been in it. The film's surviving video has been thoroughly researched by author and film historian Diana McClellan, a task she undertook to view Garbo's performance. McClellan is almost positive that Dietrich appears in numerous crucial sequences in the joyless street during the process and utilizes several antique images to verify. McClellan's research indicates that Garbo and Dietrich had a passionate relationship while filming The Joyless Street. Young and gullible, Garbo was completely smitten with Dietrich, who had no desire to pursue a long-term relationship with the younger lady. Both ladies were permanently resentful due to the brief but intense romance. Later, Dietrich confessed to his friend and fellow author Sam Taylor that Garbo was a stupid Scandinavian child who wore filthy underpants. Number 9. The Cursed Mansion. The Gordon Kaufman-designed Greystone Mansion, built in 1928, is a popular site for motion pictures and television series featuring an opulent home with lush gardens. The Big Lebowski, Columbo, Alias, There Will Be Blood, The Bodyguard, MacGyver, The Prestige, and Rush Hour are just a handful of the movies that the mansion has been in throughout the years. Ned Doheny, the son of oil mogul Edward Doheny, was the original owner of the home. Ned and his secretary, Hugh Plunkett, were discovered dead 4 months after moving into Greystone Mansion. Officially, it was classified as a murder-suicide. Plunkett was declared the murderer due to his unstable mental state. Even if several investigators believed the evidence to the contrary, the case was promptly closed without an autopsy or inquest. This, according to rumors, happened as a result of Doheny Sr. dissolving the case to save his son's good name. There were rumors that Ned was actually the murderer or that his wife killed both men when she learned they were in a relationship. Number 10. The Beginning. Lana Turner's birth name is Julia Jan Mildred Frances Turner, and she was born on February 8, 1921, in Wallace, Idaho. Virgil, her father, worked as a miner. Lana moved the family to San Francisco when she was still a kid because she had trouble finding work. At 16 years old, Lana was found by a Hollywood talent scout as she and her mother were drinking soda in the Top Hat malt shop. Young Lana took a screen test from MGM, one of the major motion picture companies in the world at the time, and easily passed it. Turner climbed the Hollywood ladder rapidly after beginning with small jobs. She co-starred in Ziegfeld Girl in 1941 with A-list performers Judy Garland and Hedy Lamarr. Her big break came in 1946 when she appeared in the classic film noir, The Postman Always Rings Twice. Turner portrayed a lethal femme fatale who engages in an extramarital liaison with John Garfield's portrayal of a vagabond. The Postman Always Rings Twice was a big financial success and is now regarded as one of Turner's signature roles. It made Turner one of the era's top actresses in Hollywood. Additionally, it solidified her role as a sex icon and helped the public perceive her as an enticing figure. Number 11. Walt Disney's Nazi Friends. Even though he had no trouble interacting with proud and open anti-Semites, Walt Disney is often believed to have been an anti-Semite. However, there is little evidence to support this. In 1938, Disney brought Nazi filmmaker Leni Riefenstahl to Disneyland for a tour. This was shortly after Kristallnacht Riefenstahl and Rief and Soul's most famous propaganda film, Triumph of the Will 1935, was circulating. Riefenstahl only received a warm welcome from Disney when she visited Hollywood. Number 12. Judy Garland's Enforced Diet. When Judy Garland Crash Diet signed a contract with MGM as a teenager, the pressure to maintain her weight and put in long hours started at age 14. Producers and crew members called her disgusting names and said she looked like a big pig with pigtails at 18. Louis B. Mayer, the creator of Ninjium, persuaded her to follow a strict diet that involved plenty of coffee and diet pills. Garland was given so-called pep pills to stay thin and alert for as long as she needed to for work, after which she was given sleeping drugs to allow her to rest before being given more pep pills. She received amphetamines and barbiturates, leading to the chronic drug addiction that ultimately caused her death at 47. This destructive urge claimed many victims besides Judy Garland. Since her health was negatively impacted by the long hours at work, Debbie Reynolds recalls being referred to the doctor for vitamin injections at MGM Studios. The injections contained amphetamines and were also intended to help with weight loss. Fortunately, she resisted. Number 13. Female celebrities were under pressure to get abortions. Female celebrities like Judy Garland, Joan Crawford, and Jean Harlow were pressured into having abortions by the studios they were signed with. The studios with which they agreed to the abortions had incredible power over the lives of their performers. Numerous celebrities had abortions that were forced upon them by the studio. An actress would be transported to the hospital under a fictitious name if she wasn't married or involved in an affair. Number 14. Ingrid Bergman's affair. Hollywood actress Ingrid Bergman was in good health and had a happy marriage, so her supporters had high hopes for her. During the 1949 movie's production, Ingrid Bergman started a romance with Italian director Roberto Rossellini. Both men were married then, and they eventually left their spouses for one another, partly because Bergman was pregnant. Bergman's reputation was destroyed, and she lost many fans, as was customary at the time. Politicians and other prominent people felt compelled to speak out against her actions. Rosalie and Bergman were wed and had 2 kids. They eventually divorced, and she continued to make fantastic films. Number 15. The Death of Superman. George Reeves was the original Superman, in which he died in 1959. And although the official line was that he took his own life, there were rumors of foul play. Later analysis suggests that it is unlikely that he died by his hand. Reeves had been having an affair with the wife of the powerful Hollywood producer Eddie Mannix, and as we know from the story of Joan Crawford and others, Mannix had mob connections, Marlene Dietrich and Greta Garbo. Although Marlene Dietrich and Greta Garbo had many similarities coming to Hollywood from Europe around the same time. At a similar age, they never had much affection for each other, not publicly anyway. Number 16. Errol Flynn was tried for statutory rape. Errol Flynn was one of the most popular action heroes on the big screen between the 1930s and 1950s, yet he was later prosecuted for rape. Some of his roles included Captain Blood, Don Juan, and Robin Hood, but Flynn's antics outside of the spotlight weren't nearly as valiant. Indicted in 1943, Flynn eventually appeared in the statutory rape trial of 2 17-year-old females, but he vigorously rejected the allegations. Flynn seems to have utilized his attractiveness and his acting prowess to escape the crime in the courtroom. Flynn caught the jury off guard, and the jury ultimately found him not guilty. Flynn married the 19-year-old woman he had met. Number 17. The Fall of Spade Cooley, the King of Western Swing. The King of Western Swing was Spade Cooley. He had hit records, movie contracts, and a television show. After assaulting his wife Ella May for hours in front of their daughter in 1961, Cooley killed her. Cooley's paranoia rose as his fame increased. He was naturally impetuous and prone to losing his temper, and the pressure of contractual duties and his propensity to squander the majority of his enormous wealth on bad investments made his temper much worse. One tragic day, sure that his wife was having an affair, Cooley lost his cool and beat her for hours till she passed away. The trial was an event in the media. Fans stood hours in line to enter the courthouse where Cooley was convicted. Ronald Reagan, the governor of California, was persuaded to pardon Cooley by the actor's supporters. In the end, Reagan consented. However, Cooley died of a heart attack in 1969 before being informed of his imminent pardon. Number 18. The Dark Tale of Lana Clarkson's Murder and Phil Spector's Undoing. In 2009, actress Lana Clarkson's murderer Spector was tried and ultimately found guilty. Spector was a hugely renowned record producer best known for his work with musicians, including Tina Turner, Leonard Cohen, and the Beatles. At Spector's Alhambra, California home on February 3, 2003, Clarkson was discovered dead from a gunshot wound to the inside of her mouth. Spector was shortly thereafter detained and charged with her murder. Due to Spector's prominence and the sensational nature of the crime, the trial for Spector began in March 2007 after he entered a not guilty plea. Spector was awarded a mistrial in September 2007 after the jury was unable to reach a unanimous verdict. He was not tried again for the murder of Clarkson until 2009. The renowned record producer was convicted of second-degree murder in the retrial and given a 19-year to life term, as well as an order to pay Clarkson's family reparations. On January 16, 2021, Spector passed away in prison, his once prodigious musical legacy completely destroyed. Number 19. The fall of Winona Ryder from stardom to shoplifting scandal. Winona Ryder was detained in December 2001 for shoplifting more than $5,000 worth of expensive apparel and accessories from a Beverly Hills Saks Fifth store. Despite the comparatively minor crimes Ryder committed, she was utterly demonized in the media, turning the actress into a cheap joke for late-night talk show hosts. Ryder was only found guilty of shoplifting after initially being charged with 4 felonies, including burglary and grand theft, which could have resulted in a 3-year prison sentence. She was also ordered to pay a fine and make restitution to the upscale department store. Ryder was relentlessly thrashed by society for a relatively small crime, yet managed to evade significant charges and fines in large part thanks to her riches and fame. Number 20. Mae West's controversial journey as a Hollywood sex icon. One of the first sex icons in Hollywood, Mae West was well known for her sexual image. However, it's interesting to note that West's biggest controversy occurred before she was cast in her debut film. Mae West had already achieved success as a stage actor and prolific playwright by the time she made her film debut in 1932. She used the alias Jane Mast when writing. She created and performed the play Sex in 1927. As a result, she was detained on suspicion of obscenity, and West received a $500 fine and a 10-day jail term. She authored The Drag the following year, which led to another arrest. Many conservative organizations criticized Mae West's transfer from stage to cinema. They said that her filth was unfit for the film industry, and many publications refused to promote her films. There you have it, some of the most interesting scandal stories that have taken place in Hollywood. For more interesting coverage like this one, like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. See you in our next video.